Chris, we're back here with another week of Silver Shield Behind the Strike. This week, the World War meme series continues with two new releases that are coming out July 9th at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. We have the public release, which is America 250 Give Me Freedom. And the Silver Shield Group members only release is Vote Out Every Incumbent. Both are available for the 7 days release window from Thursday, noon Eastern Time, 12 o'clock, going to the following Thursday, noon Eastern Time, July 16th. So July 4th just passed. So America has now crossed 250 years since 1776. It doesn't feel like just a normal anniversary. So a lot of people look around today and they feel like the country has freedom on the surface, but control underneath. Debt, inflation, fake media, fake politics. So going into the 250th year and what's been going on this past week.
Yeah, I feel like the 250th anniversary is a little bit bittersweet because we know that with all the information that we have right now with the Epstein files and the Panama Papers, that we're completely run by a completely, sick, psychopathic group of career criminals that keep getting away with it. So, here we are. We do have a lot of freedoms. We still have freedom of speech. We may not have freedom of reach anymore because everybody gets censored and sandboxed and gets deplatformed like I do. But still, that we're still in the country that allows us to do that. We could be in communist China where there's only what the party says, and that's all that is ever transmitted. At least we could still have freedom here. And then we're also backed up by freedom with the ultimate freedom of having over 500 million guns in this country, and that the right of our free press, if it gets to a point where we cannot speak out anymore, that's the reason why they do have the Second Amendment when the First Amendment fails. Silver Shield, we're still celebrating the 250th anniversary, even though it's a little bittersweet. This is still a great country. There's a lot of hope here, and things can change around in literally one day. Like, we could just have a jubilee to get rid of all the debt and round up all the criminals that are all been blockchained by all their criminal conspiracy. Things can turn around very quickly, but right now it definitely feels a little bit of a bittersweet taste.
So now a lot of people say they want freedom. They still keep looking to the system to give back to them, right? So the right politician, the right party, the next election. Is that one of the biggest traps that people are stuck in?
Honestly, everything other than silver is a trap in my mind. A delusion, an imitation of what needs to happen. I look over the last 15 years and all the work that Bitcoin did in creating all this trillion-dollar Ponzi scheme that's global, and there's millions of people that are involved in it. And all I do is think that sucked all the wind from silver, because silver is the ultimate solution to this problem. You're not going to beat the gold men with Bitcoin. You're going to build it. You're going to build the gold men with silver and a silver standard. And the only way out of this is for people to get on their own silver standard, which is what I've been a proponent of for the last 15 years with Silver Shield, and stack silver that means something to you. Instead of buying boring government bullion, buy Silver Shield that it goes up in value, over the last 15 years. So that's basically the mission that I've been talking about, is that once you get into silver and collect a little bit, you want to high grade your stack into having more meaningful silver that Silver Shield provided over the last 15 years.
For somebody watching this, what does the World War meme really mean?
This World War meme, to me, is the substitution for World War III. I think that we can actually prevent World War III of violent military conflict by having a World War meme where this is a battle for human consciousness. I believe that all 8 billion souls on earth are part of the same God consciousness, and that once we're all start becoming awake, the whole world is going to become awake, and that's going to lead to a singularity of truth. That singularity of truth is going to be where AI and humanity are going to merge together to form a singularity of truth where all fictions will go away, and that people will only be interested in hearing the truth about what's going on in the world. And I think this is going to come at the time of a tremendous financial collapse, tremendous change in global military power, energy, technology, all sorts of stuff. There's great changes that are going to come from this. And I think the World War meme is leading the charge of a conscious evolution, I would say, a warfare that is being manifested in physical Silver Shield products on pretty much a weekly basis now.
So there's a question that kind of comes up from people on the internet, and the curiosity is why put these messages on physical silver instead of just delivering your message online. So like online posts can be deleted, censored, forgotten. So what makes the silver a different place to carry this message or a message?
I look at it as like when I look at the fall of the Roman Empire and the Byzantine Empire and the Holy Roman Empire and all these other empires, the thing that usually is the only thing that's left is the coins out of those systems. All their architecture gets ground into the ground, and all their stories and things that they thought were popular and important back then, just like we're having now. Everybody be into stocks and bonds and T-bills and cryptocurrencies and all sorts of digital illusions of wealth that can all go away overnight. To me, when I started Silver Shield, I saw it as a way of transferring the greatest truth on eternal silver. Like, these silver coins will be around for generations beyond that I'm around and you and I are around, and it'll be passed from one generation to the other. And on them, they have meaningful symbols on them, and the whole series combined, it all forms a huge art effort, a huge communication effort, a huge effort of transferring truth that is censored on online. I look at all the work that I did online. I put far more effort into doing online videos and writing articles and doing interviews and doing all this other stuff than I did doing these coins. But yet the coins are the ones that are keeping this going. And I encourage people, if you want to see this message thrive, join the Silver Shield group. It's $7 a month or $77 a year. And you can join it and support this effort. And eventually it's going to reach everybody. Because when the Ponzi paradigm pops, the only thing that's going to be left standing is silver. It's going to be a single asset hyperinflation, where silver is going to go up more than all other assets combined. Silver will be worth more than gold, more than Bitcoin, more than the dollar, more than stocks, more than bonds, more than real estate, more than derivatives. Silver will be worth more because it's at the nexus of technological, financial, political, military, even a spiritual demand that is placed upon silver. So I'm a firm believer that we're in the very early stages of a major move in silver that's going to define it by it becoming a silver age of humanity. That's how much power will shift to silver, that they'll actually start calling it a silver age of humanity instead of wherever we're going through right now.
Let's get into the public release for this week. So we have a coin, America 250, Give Me Freedom. So visually, it has symbols people would expect from an American 250 piece. You have the eagle, fireworks, the number 250. You show the year 1776 to 2026. But the part that stands out is the message. So it doesn't say celebrate freedom. It doesn't say remember freedom. It says give me freedom. That makes the coin feels less like a birthday coin and more like what made you choose give me freedom for this coin?
Well, mainly because they always use give me liberty, and liberty is freedom granted by a power. What I want is freedom which is God-given, and that the only way you're going to get it is become independent of the system. And the whole point of even owning the coin is that you're stacking a physical ounce of silver outside the criminal banking system, which is going to be transferred into people becoming kings on the other side of this. I think that's the form of government that's going to blossom on the other side, in the ashes of corporations, central banks, and governments that are all going to collapse with this Ponzi power scheme that they have. That on the other side is going to be individual kings that stack silver that will have had more silver than the kings of England. But this will come at a time that there will be a complete Ponzi collapse of all other assets on earth, and that those silver coins will have exponential value relative to all the other silver out, or relative to all the other assets out there. So you're going to have a collapse of a Ponzi scheme. At the same time, you're going to have unobtainium silver, where silver becomes worth more than all the other assets out there. So each one of these coins, I imagine during a hyperinflation, would get rid of a mortgage, medical bills, student loans, car payments, medical problems, whatever you got going on, that in the hyperinflation that we've seen in Weimar Germany, Zimbabwe, and Venezuela, that silver goes up in value, on an astronomical level. And that will just bring, to me, what I think when the whole world goes through this collapse, bring a silver standard where the best men on the other side will see that they are standing alone, and that they're going to be given the order or charge to reform the world. And I think that's what men are going to do is they're going to take their few silver coins and pay off their neighbors' mortgages and student loans and get us out of this Ponzi scheme system. And I think that it's through the hyperinflation that we're going to end up getting a jubilee to get rid of all the debt and get us off of this debt and usury system. I'm telling you that this is biblical, global, financial, political, military, spiritual changes that are coming and can happen in a day. I mean, it takes very little for this to happen. All it needs to happen is for this podcast or me to get onto another podcast and reach millions of people and get people to suddenly buy up the very few ounces of Silver Shield that are on eBay. And that is where I think it's going to happen first. I think it's going to happen on eBay first with Silver Shield, with the few thousand last week hands that are willing to give up their eternal silver for a few dollars that are going to burn a hole in their pocket and, take care of whatever. But once the Silver Shield sells out on eBay, that's going to trigger a rush to the online silver dealers and mints that are currently selling silver at 50% off its all-time highs. And then it's going to lead to the triple default of the COMEX, LBMA, and the Shanghai, where they would all sell out all at the same time. It takes very little capital globally to switch into silver, to sell it out and have a jubilee where it's going to be worth so much more than what we can currently are dealing with it now, allowing it to be manipulated down. The only way we can win this game is for us to stack silver outside the system and cause a default of the LBMA, COMEX, and the Shanghai. That's where all the big brothers are playing, and that's what's going to end up happening. I need people to get out of the cryptocurrencies and gold, especially gold. The gold to silver ratio is 1 to 67 right now. And a gold to silver mining ratio is only like 1 to 7 or 1 to 6. And so that means that silver would have to go up 10 times relative to gold. Gold doesn't even have to move, and silver can go up 10 times relative to gold. I'm saying that silver is going to be worth more than gold. In fact, it'll be worth far more than gold when I get through with this.
Now, I want to move over to the Silver Shield group members only release. Now, this one takes the same theme of freedom, but it brings it directly into today's political system. The coin is called Vote Out Every Incumbent. Not vote out one party, vote out a few bad names, not wait for the next savior. Vote out every incumbent. The image shows an eagle carrying a broom and sweeping away the incumbent ballot box. So where America 250 looks back at the birth of freedom, this coin feels like it's asking what people are willing to do now. So what was your reasoning of why every incumbent, not some, not only a party, not the worst?
Mainly because I don't think voting changes anything. Like I've been in this long enough to know that no matter who got in, it was always going to end up being this way. I mean, I think everybody who voted for Trump this past time feels completely betrayed in his stance to supporting Israel and the genocide that's been going on there. And then seeing the influence of AIPAC that they have over all of our congressional and senatorial races, that they spend millions of dollars buying elections. I think this recent primary loss of Thomas Massey for the 2026 congressman seat was another example of how this game is completely rigged, and that the only way out of this is to vote out every incumbent that's in there, to send a message that way to both parties that we're unhappy with this two-party system and that nobody's going to get there. Will this happen? I'm always looking for non-violent, non-compliant, asymmetrical victories that can happen, and this could be one way of measuring victory by voting out every incumbent.
So as you said, and as we all know, a lot of people are angry at the system, but then they do keep on voting for the same names because they believe their side is different. Is that one of the biggest illusions in politics? By keep voting just for the name.
Yeah.
Just picking a side for a name. Either it could be the name of the person, the name like Republican, Democrat, separation, but putting a name on it. Is that the illusion for the politics? Is that what they're trying to do?
Yeah, it's a two-party system, so they go from the left hand to the right hand to the right hand to the left hand. It doesn't matter; nothing changes. So by voting at all, really, that's maybe the other way of doing this is not vote at all and just have nobody show up. But I think that they use so many paper ballots to fraud the system that it will never really show up. But I have a coin that's coming up called "Nothing's Going to Change until this happens," and it shows a bunch of politicians with chains behind their backs. That's ultimately what needs to happen. The military, I think, is the only place that this can foment because they can come in and conduct military tribunals and massive arrests and really hit things from the top where, all of our government is being blackmailed by a foreign government, namely Israel, with all the money that they spend on AIPAC buying up elections. And then legislature that they're putting in legislature, I think next week, talking about merging the Israeli and the American military at the highest levels. I mean, this is like a nightmare movie, a horror movie, being taken over by a virus, as something that's being manipulated like a cancer, and it's spreading. This is a military that's actively conducting genocide, actively having their soldiers rip up plants that have been there for 1,000 years, actively destroying businesses and harassing people and shooting them, shooting journalists. I mean, this is a genocide that's being taken on there. And our government is actively going to vote to merge the Israeli and the American governments or militaries together at the highest levels with all of the highest technology. And this is a time that, people need to be aware of who's allowing this. And it's the current group of politicians. So I would challenge everybody to vote out every incumbent.
Now, you've used the phrase two puppet state. So for someone new watching this, what does that mean?
It means both sides are controlled by the same hand. You can have this goes back to Roman power of, a left versus a right and a right versus a left. And it gives somebody the feeling like they are participating in the system, but they're both controlled at the top by the head, by the puppeteer, by the puppet master. And that's ultimately what we're seeing. You see people like the Adelsons, the billionaire gamblers out in Vegas spend $200 million just on Trump, and that's just Trump, one family that they spend $200 million. Been hundreds of millions of dollars that have flown towards Trump, and I telling you, the American people feel completely betrayed by his turn of events in support of Israel over America, and that there's now going to be a passage of legislation merging the IDF and the Israeli military at the highest levels with the American military. This is unconstitutional, and everybody that votes for it should be voted out of office.
So now America was born by rejecting old world control. Now, 250 years later, are Americans being asked to reject a new kind of control?
Yeah, I mean, they talk about the New World Order, and this is a huge conspiracy. It's not just this one thing, it's everything. You're being poisoned at every level. We have poison in our food, poison in our water, poison in our medicine, poison in our education system, poison in our politics, poison in our technology. Everywhere you're being watched and tracked and traced and trapped and taxed and it's an oppressive system. But one, I think, can be turned around on a dime to a RICO trial on the highest crime cabal out there, which is the Rothschilds. This is, if you were to take all the military intelligence and surveillance and technology and military power to combine it on one family, one RICO trial on the Rothschilds, who have been behind both sides of all wars since Napoleon, there would be a crime cabal that would pay off all the world's debt. They are worth over $500 trillion, and the total global debt is only $300 trillion. That would leave $100 trillion left over to refund all the income tax that's ever been paid, and another $100 trillion, all the property tax that's ever been paid. Just one family with one convicted fraud, that they're behind all the wars out there. And I'm saying right now, that would be the quickest way of ending this whole thing and freeing all humanity with the Jubilee.
All right, so Chris, for someone watching this who feels the money is broken, the politics are fake, what is the first real step they should do?
Buying silver. I mean, it's the last step. It's the only step that you can take. It's the only way of you becoming a solid or sovereign citizen is to have money outside the system, and it has a loyal title unlike any other asset out there, which means that if you hold it, you own it. And that's the best thing to have for a time like this when we're living in a Ponzi paradigm of epic proportions. I mean, literally, they call it the everything bubble because everything is in a bubble except for silver. Silver is now 50% off its all-time high that just reached over in January, and it's going to go back there, and it's going to go even higher than that. I'm telling you, if you do anything, study Weimar Germany silver. Just Google that search term, and you'll see how fast silver can go from 60 marks or dollars up to hundreds of trillions of dollars or marks. Where 1 ounce of silver or gold could buy up a whole city block because of the hyperinflation that happens. And that's ultimately what's going to happen, is that we're going to have either two things. We're going to have a market collapse, which is going to force the central banks and the governments to bail them out and spend trillions of dollars. And that's going to lead to people rushing out of risky assets that seem like they're better to get their capital out of the market than starting to get the return of capital versus the return on capital. And it'll flow down Exeter's pyramid out of stocks and bonds and real estate and cash and gold and eventually into silver. And then Silver Shield is the very, 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 very tip of all the silver stacking out there. You don't come to find Silver Shield without going through a lot of search terms and stuff to find this unique little collection that we have out there, that I think is the microcosm of all the silver stacking that you could be doing. And that's stacking silver is the only way you're going to get out of the system and all through Judgment Day, where all the other assets are going to collapse and silver is going to be the only way out.
This week, we have the public release, America 250, Give Me Freedom. We also have, for Silver Shield group members only release this week, we have Vote Out Every Incumbent. Both releases are part of the World War meme series. They both go live Thursday, July 9th, 12 p.m. Eastern Time, and are available for only 7 days until the following Thursday, the 16th at noon Eastern Time. You can find them at Duane silvershieldcoins.com. Click on the new release section. Chris, again, thank you for walking us through the meaning behind these beautiful releases. We'll see everyone next week for another Silver Shield Behind the Strike.
Thank you so much for coming out.